Hello and welcome to Words of the Wild, a podcast brought to you by the Scottish Wildlife Trust. My name is Rachel and I'll be your host for this episode. And as usual, I'm joined by my brilliant colleague and co-host.
Hello, my name is Ed. Thrilled to be back for our second episode of our second season. What are we talking about today, Rachel?
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things community. So communities across Scotland are taking action for nature in so many different ways that everyone can really play a part. So Ed and I, we travelled to a few places around Scotland to speak to some of our fantastic colleagues and volunteers to hear what they are doing in their communities.
I'm really looking forward to this episode. There's so much exciting stuff happening. So first up, we are talking to Harry, who is our Action for Nature in Ayrshire engagement officer. So you went down and recorded with Harry not too long ago. How was that?
It was good. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago now because I was out in a t-shirt. So it was warm. So yeah, I visited Harry. He's based out in Irvine and we went to Shelton Wood, which is one of the reserves out in Irvine, and it was fantastic. Such a beautiful spot. Definitely recommend if you're in the area or you're going to the area to go check out some of the reserves that we've got in Irvine. But yeah, it was great. Harry, he does so many different things with the community. He's got different volunteer groups. He does things with the general public as well. And I think, as you'll hear when we speak to Harry, is just incredibly passionate. And I think he spreads that kind of throughout the community in Irvine, which is fantastic. So yeah, I think without further ado, we'll hear from Harry.
So there's three main types of, well, not three, there's more than three, but there's three you mostly would see. So that's spear thistle. Okay. So spear thistle has, like, each spike that comes out has just one big, what you would call a classic Scottish thistle. I'll show you the other ones as we go. But so keep that in mind and I'll show you the other ones. Yeah, so my name's Harry Richards. I'm Community Engagement Officer in Ayrshire for the Scottish Wildlife Trust. Today we're at one of our wildlife reserves called Shelton Wood, and that's in Irvine. In Irvine we have 9 wildlife reserves, and this is actually the biggest one. This is about 130 hectares in total, and it's a post-industrial site, you would say. You may be able to hear it in the recording. You can hear factories, and we're nearby to some roads, but actually also, you can probably hear there, you can hear birds as well, and it's just a nice peaceful place to come. Nearby to towns. Action for Nature in Ayrshire developed around 10 years ago, and the main aim is really, it's a volunteer-led thing. We're trying to get people, just average everyday people, to come out and help us maintain these wildlife reserves and other local green spaces. And the main aim really is just to get people thinking about nature, thinking about the environment and the small things that they can maybe do to help nature to, as we know, we're in this climate crisis, well documented, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming that all these big changes are going on all over the world. But, maybe we can't affect those changes, but we can affect the local changes. We can do the small things in small ways, but if we all do that, or if lots of people do that collectively, you can actually make a difference. We've removed loads of things like Himalayan balsam, so invasive non-native species. But where we're walking now, actually, in Shelton Wood, we've got an area that we call Wednesday Wood. And that's so named because the volunteer group who meet on a Wednesday developed it. So a lot of this site used to be conifer, like dark, dense blocks of coniferous non-native species. So the Trust started getting rid of them about 15 years ago here. This particular area was about 10 years ago, and since then the Wednesday volunteers have been developing this area, and so we now call it Wednesday Wood. So if you were to pin me down to one thing, I would say probably Wednesday Wood is the thing I'm most proud of. The Wednesday volunteer group is the most regular one. It's once a week on a Wednesday, and we do practical conservation work there. So we come to places like this, Shelton Wood, and we trim trees back, we fix fences, we plant trees in the winter, just a lots of routine maintenance on these sort of places. On a Thursday morning, we run a group called Time Out Thursday. It's just 2 hours in the morning, and it's more of a kind of gentle work, but then a walk afterwards, a nice nature walk. Once a month on a Sunday, first Sunday of the month usually, we have another group called Community Conservation Volunteers, and that group's actually been set up to go in different places, so we don't actually work on Scottish Wildlife Trust places there, we go to other local green spaces and help community groups. And that's quite nice because lots of the community groups we help are small, almost one-man band. They just have a few volunteers and sometimes some of them quite elderly, so we like to go in and help. Yeah, so if we didn't help them, the work probably wouldn't get done, so that's quite nice to do that. And the other way people can get involved is we run a warden scheme whereby someone can adopt one of our wildlife reserves and just go in their own time whenever they want in the evening or the weekend and just report back. Some of the regular volunteers are actually wardens as well, so they come out on a Wednesday and take care of these places, but then they come back in their other free time with their families and their dogs or whatever, and they wander around as well. And then they often say to me, it's really good going back, just themselves or just one or two of the family members rather than a big group of us that come out on a Wednesday. You get a bit more time to spend just looking at things and pointing out things, and I think they're proud of what they've done. They're proud of the work that they've contributed on these reserves. I was actually a volunteer before I got this job. I volunteered with the Scottish Wildlife Trust here in Ayrshire for about 7 or 8 years. I was working at another job, and I actually only had one day off a week, and I came volunteering on a Wednesday. So often best way of getting into the kind of conservation jobs is to be a volunteer initially, get that experience, get your name out there and get a bit of experience, and then jobs come up and that can have heard that happening a few times in conservation. It's quite a nice way, and it flows quite nicely. You're not coming into something brand new, and at least you'll have some knowledge of the sites that you might be working on and the operational things. People, more and more, I feel people want to be involved in things. There's an old saying, no man is an island, and it's kind of true. You want to feel part of something. We're humans, we're pack animals, so to speak. So people come on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever, they feel part of that, and for some of them actually, some of them, I know for a fact some of them live alone or, single people households type thing. It's just a chance for them to get out and about and a bit of camaraderie, talk to people. Often, some of the topics we speak about at lunchtimes, often we can go a full lunch break and not even talk about animals or wildlife or nature. It's often about, other things, football, Coronation Street, politics, you name it, but all in a nice, sensitive way, So no, I think people really just enjoy being with other people, and then at the end of it, if they think they've done something nice for nature or the environment and made it better, that's all you really want. The point of out walking like this and the volunteering that we do, no one knows everything. All the volunteers bring a bit of knowledge about certain things, but not one person knows everything. We're always teaching each other. That's another good thing about it. We're always asking each other, what do you think this is, or what sound is that? And we all kind of get our guidebooks out, our ID books out, or our apps or whatever, and we're all trying to help each other develop our knowledge, and that's really good. I see it sometimes when we get a newer volunteer coming and maybe hasn't got that much nature knowledge, and you see the other volunteers helping them, and that's good as well, because then I can remember when that volunteer first came and didn't really know much, but now they're passing on the knowledge, and that's what it's all about. There's no point in having knowledge and keeping it to yourself. You've got to tell other people. You've got to because it's all about awareness. You've got to know what you're protecting, what you're trying to help. So any of these things in nature, you need to know what that bird is, you need to know what that flower is, you need to know. Knowledge is power in that respect. I have a phrase that I say to people when I'm talking about things like this, and it's we all watch the TV and we all watch David Attenborough and Gordon Buchanan, all these fantastic wildlife documentary style stuff. But I'm personally not going to be going to the Great Barrier Reef or the Galapagos Islands or the Gulf of Mexico anytime soon. But I can come to Shilton Wood or Gales Marsh or Cosshallmuir Wood, 10 minutes from home, and see what I think is some fantastic wildlife.
So that was Harry down in Ayrshire. I've got to ask, what did you see? Because, I went to Shilton Wood last year and it was fantastic. There was tons of stuff about, but did you see any wildlife while you were there? Well,
we've seen loads of butterflies, which is really great. I think butterflies had a really good year this year. Plenty of birds as well, which is fantastic. But one of the really exciting things, now I actually didn't see this with Harry when I was there recording, but a couple of weeks before I was also in Shilton Wood again with Harry. And basically if you don't know, Shilton Wood has a really great adder population. So here in Scotland we do have, even though we're pretty chilly, we do have a few reptiles, and adder is one of our snakes. And basically Harry was kind of taking us out round Shelton Wood, and there's a few kind of on the reserve, like a few areas of like corrugated metal that they have down, which you can kind of lift up. The adders kind of go under there. So basically we went to those spots, lifted up the metal and like, oh, is there going to be an adder? And no, every time there was no adders. And we'd kind of given up hope, and then we're walking back towards the car, and what is just on the side of the path was an adder. It was so cool. And it actually kind of stayed for goodwill. It kind of posed, let us get a photograph before it kind of slithered away. But it was amazing. I had never seen one before, and I think that's definitely one like wildlife encounter that will stick with me.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. So yeah, definitely head down to Shelton Wood and see if you can spot one. And like Harry had mentioned as well, there's Wednesday Wood, which is an area in Shelton Wood, which the volunteers have been basically creating for a few years now. And it was really fantastic to see. And it was great to hear Harry's passion come through. And, it sounds like the volunteers have such kind of ownership over it. And it's kind of nice that also, I guess, it's got its own name now, and it's been named after the Wednesday group, which is quite nice.
And of course, we featured Shelton Wood in season 1. We went for a walk with Jill, who's the kind of area reserves manager. So if you do want to find out more, go and take a listen back in our first season for a kind of more in-depth look around Shelton Wood.
So for our next segment this episode, we are going to be hearing from Cumbernauld Living Landscape. So we heard from Cumbernauld Living Landscape in our last season of Words of the Wild, so last year. And we're joined again by Tracy Lambert, who's the project manager, to hear a little bit about how the project's changed and what's been going on. So last year, Tracy talked to us a lot about connecting with nature and the project, and the importance of getting out into nature for our health and well-being. So we're going to hear what's changed, which a little bit of a spoiler, quite a lot, because they're kind of in a new bit of a project phase called Nurturing Natural Connections this time round. So yeah, we're going to hear from Tracy to see what's been going on in the project, and we're also going to hear from Anne McClure, which is one of Cumbernauld Living Landscape's volunteers and also a local resident.
It's a very ambitious project, it's very interconnected. But personally, I can't wait to go out and meet some of the community again and reconnect with local communities with what we do and support the project team to do that as well. This is the opportunity to try and lift them up. This is their time because they'll be the main face-to-face. I'm Tracy Lambert. I'm the project manager for the Nurturing Natural Connections as part of the Cumbernauld Living Landscape long-term vision. Nurturing Natural Connections has been funded for a 5-year project with thanks to the players of the National Lottery. Well, we got the funding. That's the new bit. We were awarded, I think it's just over 2.6 million in July, so that will cover the 5-year project, the major habitats and access works, the staffing, all the activities, the events and stuff like that. And some major tenders for monitoring evaluation of the project to make sure that we are keeping on track and that we can get all the evidence that the project is successful. We have a Reviving Rivers project to clear out the debris to the rivers and get rid of the invasive species along the river bank to stop any spread into neighbouring land and to just stop it being a threat to the wildlife reserve as it is. And we have an augmented reality and virtual reality element to one of the work streams as well, where we will have the kind of story of a woodland for augmented reality with over time seeing the wildlife that can come into that area and how the woodland progresses, so going through succession, that type of thing. And the virtual reality will be like 360 videos of a walking route round to the reserves that are in the town. So I think one of them will probably be Cumbernauld Glen. Gotta be. It's more than a continuation of the Creating Natural projects before, so that was a 4-year project. This is a 5. We still have 4 work streams in it. So one of them is for habitats. So it's all about nurturing nature. So we have a volunteer element in there, plus we have the contractors coming out doing the major works to create better woodlands, grasslands, create connectivity between nature networks, as it were. Then we have natural benefits, which deals with green health and well-being, but it also deals with advocacy for the first time. It's a very exciting element to be able to examine what's going on in the town from a planning perspective and seeing, are there any threats or opportunities that we can actually address via the planning, and how can we actually include the community in these things. And then we have Nature Counts platform as another work stream, or the Nature Counts is another work stream, where we'll have a nice new shiny Nature Counts platform on our website where people can record species. And that will give us quite good information on what's happening, where and when, and what trends are coming in, what species are coming in and out. Well, we'll see declines. And then we have the Nature Network. So we'll have the ability for communities to be able to click on a map and find out what opportunities there are to actually take action for nature, who they can contact when the action happens, type of activity it is it suitable for them, do they know somebody else? There's a whole load of things that they can get information from this map. But that's where the AR/VR element would sit, and we also have an element of Nature's Archive. So we've got the stories of how people came to the town in the 60s and 70s, right through to now, and their first interactions with nature. And it's pulling those stories out, whether that's through photography or poetry or stories themselves, and seeing how we could put that up onto the website, for example, using an old map and a new map to show with a slider that this is what it looked like, this is how it's changed. We're losing so much green space, it's really worth protecting what we have, and this is how you can take action to protect it. So there's brand new elements where for the first time we're going to be looking at trauma-informed practice as well, and how will people's connection with nature help with that to stop somebody becoming re-traumatised for something that happened previously in their life. And that element will be all across the whole of the project. It's not just one person delivering that now. There's also the invasive species removal, and that is a massive change I'd like to see occurring across the town, that we're more genned up in that and clued up. Garden escapes is a major element of that as well, because there's through the development phase we were talking to a lot of people and they were realising that, oh, you just throw your rubbish over the fence, it rots down and all that, and we're like, no, actually it becomes somebody else's problem that spreads. I think there's a massive key element there about how bad invasives are for the natural environment, so we've got that. And then the species-wide surveying through the Nature Counts platform for citizen science, that's an absolutely cracking experience for people. Everybody can be a scientist. Anybody can actually sit in their window even and look at their bird feeder, or just go for a wander, sit at the park, take a couple of notes. We've got a wee booklet that can be downloaded or printed, and you can keep your own records and then put it up on the website. Anybody can do this. It doesn't matter. I think one of the things that we're very lucky in Cumbernauld is that we have this rich mosaic of green space. And you can go from peat bogs to wetlands to woodlands to grasslands within a 15-minute walk. Cumbernauld Glen for the bluebells and the oaks. Definitely Forest Wood, because it reminds me when I worked in Aviemore, the woodlands up there. And St Maurice's for the dragonflies and the species that you find there. Broadwood for the walks that you can go on, because it's absolutely stunning, especially in winter and the snow's everywhere and it's all crisp and it just looks beautiful. Ravenswood for the devil's bit scabious in the marsh when it just turns purple in July and August. And it's absolutely heaven. There's so much more to this town. And it's all about raising awareness about it. I mean, I was a resident for so many years. We moved in the 70s to here, and I was here for about 37 years, and I didn't know half the places in Cumbernauld. Now I know them all at the back of my hand, and I love them. And if I was a resident and I didn't know it, there's going to be a lot more residents out there exactly the same. So it's like a new experience to just go out and enjoy it. Start small, big, later. Do you know what I mean? Today Cumbernauld, tomorrow world. But just go and experience it. Go for a walk. Take yourself and your phone and take some photos.
Do you know that Cumbernauld is at the centre of Scotland's history? So in the late 1200s, there was no clear king of Scotland. So Robert the Bruce and John Comyn both claimed to have equal right to it. And part of the lands that John Comyn owned was the whole of Cumbernauld. And just over there's the site that was the original Motte and Bailey Castle. And it could be that it was from Cumbernauld that Robert the Bruce summoned John Comyn to a meeting in Dumfries, where Comyn was murdered by Robert the Bruce, thereby allowing him access to the throne. And strangely, the man who it's said chopped off Comyn's head was then granted all the lands of Cumbernauld. My name's Anne McClure and I've been a volunteer with Cumbernauld Living Landscape since 2019. It's one of the things I really love about this is that it's such a variety of activities. We've done a lot of tackling non-invasive species in Cumbernauld. Huge amount of hacking down dogwood. There is dogwood everywhere in Cumbernauld. Crunching Himalayan balsam. We've dug out variegated archangel, so a lot of tackling the non-invasives. Planted trees. We've pruned out Sitka spruce, removed loads of old tree guards and a lot of mulch. I can't even say that. Mulch matting, that's the word, to repress weeds around trees as well. Planted wildflower seeds and plugs, scythed wildflower meadows. Scything, that's just so much fun. Done quite a lot of surveying as well and sort of citizen science, and helped make the areas more accessible for people, so clearing paths and widening paths and those kind of things. So yeah, a real variety of activities. There's green spaces all over Cumbernauld, so really no matter where you live, even in some of the quite high density areas, there will be a green space not that far away from you, and there are good paths through all of them, so the accessibility I think is important. It's really varied. Cumbernauld has ancient woodland like the glen that we're sitting in. It's got a huge pond that was built in the 1990s. There's rivers, there's streams, there's wildflower meadows, there's huge mown grassy areas where families come and picnic and dogs run riot. So yeah, there's just a real richness and variety here. So this is one of my favourite places in Cumbernauld. It is an ancient woodland, and there's a whole fascinating saga that I could tell you about the geology here and about the glacier that formed this particular area. We're sitting where the bog stank and the red burn meet, and the legend is that that could be where Cumbernauld got its name from. Cumbernauld in Gaelic is Cumbernauld, which is the meeting of the waters, so it could be that we're sitting at the place where the origin of Cumbernauld comes from. I've lived in Cumbernauld for a very long time and I didn't know many of the green spaces at all. A whole lot of reasons why I probably just, it wasn't the right stage of my life to be involved in them, but one of the real gifts that this volunteering has given me is introducing me to so many of the green spaces and making me feel that I belong to them and they belong to me. Definitely an increase in my fitness. Scything those wildflower meadows is quite a workout. Although we're really careful that people do what they can, you know, and there's no pressure to be at it all day. My knowledge of wildlife and plants has increased hugely, and that I think has had a ripple effect because I'll now happily go out foraging and I'll make preserves and jams and jellies out of things, and I've shared some of that knowledge with other people. So in my neighbourhood, not just through me, but I think a whole variety of reasons, people garden more for wildlife. We have hedgehogs that go about, people know how to look after them. So I think it's gaining that knowledge has been really beneficial for me, but it's also had a bit of a ripple effect. I've met some incredible people who are passionate about their local areas. Some of them have become friends, and mentally and emotionally, spending time in these places is so valuable. You know, we know that we live in a crazy world, and I think sometimes you just need to go and sit beside a tree for a while and reconnect with the earth. I wrote a piece for the Scottish Wildlife Trust's Words of the Wild competition last year, which took in most of the areas. It mentions the Luggy and St Maurice's Pond and the Glen, and I was thrilled to be a runner-up in the competition, so that was a great success. And I was really happy that it was an essay about green spaces in an urban environment that got so well received in the competition, because I'm sure that there were many entries that were, you know, I wander by babbling brooks, but I was really pleased that we could do something to celebrate the amazing variety of places in Cumbernauld. I find the public's been really interested and really responsive. And again, that's been a great education and engagement opportunity, because sometimes you'll be doing something that looks like the wrong thing to somebody, and Cumbernauld folk will be quite bold in coming up and challenging you. Why are you ripping out that plant? Oh, that's great. Let me introduce you to variegated archangel. And let me tell you why we're doing this. But it's amazing the number of times that people will come up and say thank you. And that's always an opportunity of saying, well, if you ever get the chance, come and join us, come and get involved as well. Now, and the people of Cumbernauld definitely do appreciate their green spaces. You hear that repeatedly. Cumbernauld has its challenges, but despite that, it is an amazing place to live and to work and to visit. And I think the green spaces are absolutely a fundamental part of that.
That was Tracy Lambert and Anne McClure as well over in Cumbernauld. I mean, they're doing some amazing stuff. So much stuff going on. And the new phase of the project, Nurturing Natural Connections, it's just got so much good stuff kind of lined up. It's so exciting.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work cut out for them. It's amazing. Like, they've just got so many avenues. It just sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really, really great recording in Cumbernauld with Tracy and Anne. I met them on separate days, getting diaries to line up, as you can imagine. It's quite hard work when Tracy is as busy as she is. So it ended up being separate days, but recorded with Anne in Cumbernauld Glen. And it's just the most, the only word that I can use to describe it really is kind of magical. Like, we were sat, the meeting of the two waters, and we could hear people walking around and people playing. And as we were walking through, there was children playing, but we couldn't see them. So it was this kind of real atmosphere of history and slightly mystical kind of ambience to it. It was a really beautiful sunny day, and it was just amazing. And you kind of come out the trees and you're back in Cumbernauld and you can hear the road again. But if you kind of just follow the path back into the woods, it all kind of disappears. It's got a real atmosphere. Really, really amazing spot.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I loved that Anne mentioned was her point about volunteering and how she feels like she is kind of belongs to the spaces, which I thought was so nice, because I feel like whenever I refer to volunteering, I'm often talking about how, it helps us kind of feel ownership over a space and want to look after it. But I guess kind of Anne flipped that and said, well, also, it makes her feel like she belongs to the space, which I thought was just sums up, connecting to nature in just such a, a nice little bow. It's perfect.
Yeah, and that's such a core theme in a lot of the work happening in Cumbernauld is, those green spaces are there for the people, and the people, look after those spaces. And Tracy, although she is the project manager for the Cumbernauld Living Landscape, she's also a local resident, and her passion for those spaces, it's infectious. I was talking to her and almost wanted to go out and start looking after those spaces myself. I don't even live there, so
I'm going to move to Cumbernauld.
Yeah, that's it. I've got to go. Absolutely fantastic. Loads and loads of fun. Which leads nicely into our next feature. So last episode we introduced a new segment which we have called A Day in the Life, which is where we will be speaking to fantastic colleagues and volunteers to find out more about their role and just a bit more about what they get up to. So for this feature we are talking to Jo Latimer, who is one of our Wildlife Watch leaders.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Wildlife Watch groups are the Trust's nature clubs for children. So we currently have 27 groups kind of spread across Scotland, all the way from the borders up to the Highlands and the Islands. And they're really all about creating a kind of, a safe space for children to explore and discover nature and sort of foster that caring connection for it and kind of take action to protect it. And the groups are largely led by fantastic volunteers like Jo. And it's really down to their kind of dedication that these, groups can run for children in their local areas, which, as we know, it's so important to get kids outdoors. So yeah, we're going to hear from Jo, who's one of our Wildlife Watch leaders for the Bridge of Erin group. So am I right in saying that you went to visit one of the sites that the watch group runs at?
Yes, so we met in Bridge of Erin, in Perthshire, it was way back in July now, on a very rainy day, as you will probably hear in the next bit. We met, it was lovely and dry, and then as we were walking we just kind of stood by the river. As we were walking, the heavens opened and we got absolutely drenched. So a huge thanks to Jo for putting up with not just my questions, but also torrential rain at the same time. I think, Jo, huge thanks, because it was probably the wettest feature I have ever recorded. So without further ado, I'm not going to waffle anymore. Here is Jo for A Day in the Life with a Wildlife Watch leader.
Sure. My name is Jo Latimer, or Jo Fu, and I run the Bridge of Erin Wildlife Watch Group.
And we're here in a slightly rainy Bridge of Erin.
Yes.
The next question is, what is Wildlife Watch all about?
It's really about getting people out and about in nature and appreciating the nature that's close to them and how easy it is to access it. We really enjoy a lot of cool things in Bridge of Erin that a lot of people haven't realised since, and they've learned about since we started the group. So that's been really good.
And you're the Wildlife Watch leader, so what does that actually entail? What do you kind of do?
It's a little bit like running a business sometimes, and that there's promotion, there's planning, there's trying to actually deliver the sessions. I have a team of volunteers that I work with, but I am the kind of main operator of the group, so I'm the one that's kind of writing up all the action plans and the risk assessments and stuff. And then we take turns delivering, so we can share out that. And it's really keeping in touch with parents and families and putting stuff out on social media just to let people know that we're here and that they can join us and that everybody's welcome. It's a mix of things.
Nice. And have you got a favourite Scottish species?
I do. So my background is large predator conservation, so I could argue that my favourite Scottish species would be something like the lynx or the wolf, but that is controversial in itself. But I really enjoy a red squirrel encounter. It's hard to beat seeing one of those wee guys scurrying around, but recently I've been spending quite a lot of time with the local beavers.
Nice. Squirrels and beavers are always a good answer.
Yeah.
What does a typical Wildlife Watch session look like for your group?
So we work with 2 to 8 year olds, and it's a slightly unusual setting because all of them bring parents with them. So we have to try and pitch things that everybody's going to be engaged in. So we normally start off with a very slow start because we're on a Sunday morning. It should be a 10 o'clock start, but probably by 10:15 everybody's rocked up. And we will start with some kind of activity to ground people and figure out what we're doing. We'll set up maybe some group rules if we're in an unusual environment, and then let them know what the session's about. Say it was beavers, we're going to find out what the kids already know, and then we will get into some kind of physical game or activity to get them running around because we like to get them moving a wee bit because otherwise they just want a snack straight away. And then we tend to always do some kind of physical thing, some kind of learning thing, whether it's matching cards, sorting activity, out investigating things and doing ID or something along those lines. And then we do our sessions each year. It's always January because it always surprises me just how many people are willing to come out in the cold. And we inevitably do birds because we can't get everybody ready to do some citizen science for Birdwatch, and they just love it. Every year it's one of our busiest sessions, so it just works out as so much fun. And we've not had a rainy January yet. It's always been sunny. I've said that now and I've ruined it.
So what made you become a Wildlife Watch leader?
So my background, as I said, was large predator conservation and ecology. I've always been interested in working with animals and wildlife, and then when I went off to do some more studying, I realised actually education was really important. I started training in science education, and when I was at Glasgow Science Centre actually, and I worked there, I started a Wildlife Watch group there, but it couldn't quite get the teeth into it because I just didn't have the volunteers. When we went away travelling for a wee while, and then when we came back to the UK, it was just in kind of COVID time, like just after the first major lockdowns. I was desperate for something to do. I knew that when I came back and I was settled somewhere in Scotland, I wanted to set up a Wildlife Watch group. So I got in touch, seeing that there was no other Wildlife Watch groups in Ayrshire at the time. Catherine, the coordinator at the time, was really keen. And then I roped a few friends in from the area. And yeah, it's just kicked off since then. And it's just been something that I've always really wanted to do, and I'm really glad that now we've got somewhere and a base and like a kind of solid group of people that really want to come and get involved. So that's been excellent.
And what's something that you always have with you when you are out and about?
This is an easy one. It's probably my camera.
Yeah.
Whether that's on my phone or my actual camera. I'm always ready to try and capture a nice photo of something, or even if it's just a picture of something that I'm not sure what it is, so I can go and look it up later. That often is the case.
And what's your favourite thing about the sessions that you run?
My favourite thing about sessions, I guess, it's really just seeing the kids get involved, but not just that. Like when the adults are engaged as well and the parents, then you know you're onto something, because if they're listening, you've managed to do some kind of intergenerational learning. Like they're learning together, they're both interested in what's happening, they're helping each other out, I think just having that kind of spark and people be excited about what you're doing. And also there's a bit of a wow factor. You come out and you look and people have never looked down and seen that there's like beaver chips on the ground here. So just explaining to them what that is, they're like, oh wow, I didn't realise that nature was so close, and it's literally in some people's back doors. So yeah.
Magic moment.
Yeah.
And last question, how do you wind down after a really busy and hectic wildlife watch session?
Well, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, so I think winding down is a term I don't really relate to anymore. But normally we go home and have lunch, probably with some of the other wildlife watch leaders who have travelled a wee bit. Some come up from Fife, and chill out a little bit with a cup of tea. That's probably just it's nothing too exciting. Just that.
Great. Well, that's really interesting. Thank you very much for chatting, Jo.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
So that was Jo and Ed. I think you can definitely tell how wet it was from that recording. But yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, outside of the podcast, a large part of my job is supporting Wildlife Watch. So I'm completely biased, but it's just so fantastic. I think it's a great kind of initiative. Like I say, we've got these groups across Scotland and they are just doing some amazing work. And it is, like I say, it's down to the dedication and the passion of volunteers like Jo that these groups can run and so many children can have these wild experiences. And talking about, this episode, we've been talking about community and volunteering, and becoming also a wildlife watch leader is, an incredible thing in itself. Again, you get to meet more people, and also you're out in nature yourself, connecting with it with the kids. And I feel like, that's one of the things about nature, isn't it? There's always more to learn, and you kind of learn along with the kids, which is great. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah,
absolutely. Having met a handful of the Wildlife Watch leaders, they're all absolutely fantastic and they work so hard. And like you say, it's not just an opportunity for children to get outside. It's great for the leaders and the parents and the carers and guardians that come along as well. It's just brilliant all round. So.
Yeah, it becomes kind of this intergenerational kind of group, which is nice. If you want to know more about Wildlife Watch, whether from a volunteering perspective or you want to find your local group, if you want to take your families along, just head over to our website. All the information for Wildlife Watch is on there.
Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode. As always, if you'd like to get in touch, do drop us an email. You can reach us at communications@scottishwildlifetrust.org.uk. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, do just get in touch and we'd love to hear. Before we finish up, what are we talking about in the next episode, Rachel?
So next episode, we're going to be taking a little bit of a journey through some of our kind of projects and partners. So we're going to be talking about some, great projects that are running, from things like Saving Scotland's Red Squirrels and our Riverwoods project as well.
Exciting stuff. Well, hopefully we'll see you or hear you next week. But thanks for listening in. This has been Words of the Wild.